please remember that unless you're ordering from Amazon's brand directly, I mean, use it, return it, I don't care. But please remember.
Yeah, so, you know, when it happens to Amazon, like who cares? It's almost as if, like, if she was the shopper and, you know, like, if we could just do it to Amazon, then let's just do it to Amazon. So that kind of makes you not a good person, right? We're supposed to say this behavior is poor behavior across the board. Don't do it to anybody. Don't do it to the little guy. Don't do it to the big guy either, because it's morally reprehensible. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Mason T, and I am an importer / product developer. So today's episode, we have something very, very special, okay? So there are a couple of YouTubers that covered a particular video that has gone viral on TikTok, and it is about Amazon FBA and how she feels that she got cheated out of the whole experience. So let me just jump into exactly what today's video is all about, okay? So Lindy did a video on this. She did it first, and then Casey from Rockstar Flipper followed suit like 6 days later or something like that. Now, this lady, her name is Full On Karen. Maybe her name is Karen. I don't know. We'll just call her Karen. And she took an Amazon FBA course, and it didn't pan out the way that she expected it to. Okay, so I want to preface this video with a couple of things. Number one, this is exactly up my alley. This is exactly what I do, right? I'm an importer and product developer for 20 years. I understand this far better than any one of these resellers do, and that is the huge difference between my channel and other people's channel, right? And this is exactly why when I first started this channel and I wanted to talk about eBay, I was very shocked that nobody is talking about eBay the way I teach on this channel. Everybody is a reseller. And the problem with being a reseller is that, I don't mean this offensively in any way, it's just the actual truth. You don't need a lot of business acumen in order to do reselling, and you don't develop a lot of business acumen if you're only doing reselling. It's only when you go all the way to the next level of product development, importing, distributing, and stuff like that, that you've done a lot of different types of businesses, that you start to understand and see things very, very differently now. So many times people, you know, love to make those arguments about like the little guy versus the big guy at these big corporations and stuff like that. Right. But the problem is that in all of these arguments, there is two sides to the story, and everybody is very empathetic on one side to the point where they're blind to exactly what the actual truth is, right? We don't really want to live our lives with my truth and your truth. We have to live our lives with the truth, especially when it comes to business, because business is a very black and white thing. Either you make money or you didn't make money. That's how you know if you were right or wrong in something. You don't just, you know, go into crazy hypotheticals in your mind. A lot of stuff with business is a risk, but it's also scientific at the same time. So I just want to show you guys what Lindy had to say, and then I'm going to show you what Casey had to say. And then later on in this video, I'm going to review this video with the perspective from a true business professional, and you will see a huge contrast in our opinions.
It was the only thing that put me under. I'm going to be 47 years old. I have an entrepreneurial spirit, and I decided if I pay for the best information and I do everything I'm told, buy all the upgrades, share the wealth, share my experience, pay it forward, which I did, I'd win. So,
and that's not always the case. That's not always the case. There are so many courses that exist for selling on Amazon. Yes, courses exist for selling on eBay and other various platforms as well, but I have never seen so many selling courses as I have for Amazon. And the fact of the matter is, the Amazon selling courses are the most expensive. She just said by the end of all of this, she will be out $15,000 for this. Now, I don't think that that means that the $15,000 was the price of the course. I think the $15,000 is the price of the course plus the losses that she had from Amazon, or maybe the losses that she incurred from having her private label product. I'm not exactly sure. We're going to to learn about that. But that is also a preconceived notion that people have, is that the good information is expensive. But I have to tell you guys, from personal experience, sellers that I've talked to, people that have created courses, I know other sellers in this space that have created courses, and they have asked astronomical amounts of money for their courses. And I've even inquired why that much? Why did you pick that number? What makes you qualified to charge that much money for this course? And it was for no other reason than that's what this person wanted. It's not because they had proven tactics. It's not because they had all of the answers and all of the best information from any other course that was on the market. They just wanted $5,000 for their course because that's what they wanted for their course.
Well, what you're describing sounds like you have inside knowledge that the person is just a charlatan. That's something completely different. But the point is that, like, you know, imagine if you're in a forest, right? And then you see this guy fishing and then he's eating and you're not. And you say, teach me how to fish. And then he says, what's it worth to you that I teach you how to fish? Because after you know it, like, you could take care of yourself from now on, right? So when it comes to a lot of these business arguments and stuff, right? People usually take the side of what people perceive as the little guy, and they have more empathy towards it. And we don't listen to both sides of the argument. If you were some kind of a mentor, right? A counseling, or you do some kind of special type of service for people, like you do videos for people, like you're an advertising agency or something like that. What do you think it feels like on the other side of the table? Because there's two sides of the story, right? So when it comes down to something like this, very typically what happens is that a customer might say, okay, so what's your going rate? And the other person will say $4,000. And then the other person will say, wow, that's really big. You know, I don't think I'm, you know, I don't think I want to pay that much, right? So here's how you handle that situation from the other side of the table, which is, I understand $5,000, $4,000, it's a lot for you right now. Okay, so how about this instead? Okay, I'll do your video, I'll do your campaign, I'll do your advertisement, I'll do your website, you know, whatever the service is, right? And I'll do it for free. But when the customers that you bring in, I want a 20% royalty on every single customer from your net profit. Is that fair? Because that way you don't have to do anything up front, and then it's money that you would not have made on your own, and then you share that with me. Now, the other business owner will think about it for a second, and he'll be like, well, yeah, but that's going to add up to way more than like $4,000 or $5,000. Exactly. Do we have a deal? No. And then the idea is that, or you could pay me what I'm worth to go away. You pay me the one-time $4,000 to go away. And that is always what the trade-off is. So it's not this random magical number all the time where it's like, you know, $5,000, that's just what they want to pay. If you know that specifically about that person, then that just means you have some behind inside knowledge that this guy is just full of it, you know, selling education courses and stuff like that. Personally, I'm not that big on education courses because I feel as if what's currently on YouTube right now, if you spend the time to sift through a lot of the knowledge, you could learn all sorts of things. You could learn programming. You could learn things like Python from beginning to end. There are Harvard courses on YouTube for that. So that's why I put out a free course as well, because if you're going to teach somebody something, you really can't go any further than the basics of stuff without knowing each other one-on-one. If you're actually going to help somebody across the finish line, then it has to be on a one-to-one basis, right? You need actual one-to-one mentorship. I have to understand what your situation is, what your background is, and what kind of, you know, goals that you're trying to make in order to tailor something to your business, especially when you're talking about things like Amazon FBA, right? If people are putting out courses blindly and not knowing what you're doing, what you're about, or something like that, then at best, you're getting like this generalized information. And if you're paying for that, then I would say you're paying way too much for that. But if somebody is to sit down with you and listen to what your business idea is, and then deep dive it with you, and then we could go back and forth as a sounding board, bouncing ideas off of each other. We have a full brainstorm session together, and then I start to counsel you step by step of what you should do and how you should approach this because of the nature of the item that you're trying to do. That's different. that is absolutely worth $5,000. You see what I'm saying? Because that is a business plan just for you. That's tailored. Of course, you pay extra money for a tailored suit, don't you? And you pay far less for a generic one. And that's how business always has worked.
There was no reason as to why it was worth that much. That's just a number that they pulled out of their butt, and they're like, okay, this is the price I'm going to charge. But I think that as a people, we tend to think that because something is expensive, that the value is there and it is worth it. But that is not always the case.
Right. But the thing is that things are not supposed to be guaranteed if you're just selling pure education. I mean, where's the part that says that, okay, if I go to this college, right, can the college promise me that I'll get a job? No. That's exactly what happens, right? So they charge me all this money and I'm in student debt and right. This is exactly what happens. This is exactly why, right? People who come out of certain schools, that school has high prestige. And then people who come out of other schools, people leave bad feedbacks and then they just say, this college is a complete scam, et cetera, et cetera. And that's exactly what every single business is, right? If I started up a consulting service, I want to do as best as I can because I want the word of mouth that like, hey, I followed Pegasus. He helped me out. We, made a lot of money together, et cetera, et cetera. That's what I want to create. I want the word of mouth that, of the actual success stories, and they'll tell you themselves rather than people just, everybody saying yours. So there's definitely going to be good educators and bad educators out there. That's just life.
What I did is it took me a year to launch. I worked with a manufacturer, Mr. Wu, in China, and I created a stroller bag.
Wow. So she's not just a reseller. She
I love the pan out.
Designed and manufactured a product for private label. She literally designed and created a product for Amazon. This lady is something else.
What? My BS radar is going off the charts here. I think you're filling in the blanks, Lindy. You don't know that. She said that she contacted a Mr. Wu to work with him to get some stuff made for her or whatever. It could just be like a made to order stuff. You could just have, white labeled something that's, you're saying she invented stroller bags? I don't think that's exactly what she's saying either. But as far as, creating or whatever, this is kind of like filling in the story. Okay. Let's jump over to what Rockstar Flipper had to say. Okay, so this is Casey's video, and let's just see what he has to say about it.
This particular product is one that she made. It's called private label. So essentially she called him Mr. Wu in China. She contacted someone off Alibaba or AliExpress. She had
you don't know that.
She's like, I want to sell a, a stroller bag. This is my idea. Can your warehouse manufacture this? She found somebody that probably creates backpacks or bags or things of that nature.
Keyword probably. Let's just hear that one more time. Okay, he says the word probably, but then continues to fill in the story.
Yeah, can your warehouse manufacture this? She found somebody that probably creates backpacks or bags or things of that nature. They said, yeah. She took some time, a lot of time probably, to draw it up with them.
Probably, again, that's twice.
And then she put in an order with them, and she spent all that time and all that money, and now it's all out the door because of all this crazy returns. And that's actually an item that it's a pretty cool idea. I'm sure parents, I don't have kids, in strollers and all that, but if you did, that's probably a cool product, right?
That's 3 probablys. All right, I don't want to listen to this anymore. Look, the thing is this, right? He has a video over here that he specifically talks about this actual video, and I just want to show you what he had to say over here, okay?
And I want to talk about the viral video that I put up that has almost 20 million views on 3 platforms. It has like 12 or 13 million on Instagram.
So he shows the 12.4 million on Instagram, but then
has 4 million on YouTube almost.
So he says it has 4 million on YouTube. So that video that we watched right now, as of right now, has 7.3 thousand views on it. Okay. If anything, actually, if we go to Rockstar Flipper and then just click on videos right here and then click on popular, his most popular video has 500,000 views. So nothing even near 4 million. So I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Okay. Maybe I got it completely wrong, but like that was just, an outright lie in my opinion. All right, guys. So I just want to jump on this real quick to get the idea of the product. Okay. So she did the stroller bag. So here we go. I'm on Amazon and I just put in stroller bag real quick. And you know what? Let's blow this up so that you can see it even more clearly, right? So we're on stroller bag, and then there's a stroller bag here, and a stroller bag here, and a stroller bag here, stroller bag here, stroller bag here, stroller bag here. What is my point? My point is that she definitely did not invent the stroller bag. I'll tell you that, right? So she worked with somebody and then put a stroller bag together. And the one that I saw is very similar to this stuff. It's double strapped, and hers probably has a little bit more pockets or something like that. This one goes for $25, $25, $17.99, $24.99, $25.99, $29.99. Okay. This one that goes for $29.99 actually ranks sixth. And look at the monthly revenue of this thing, and it sells like 1,500 every single month. All right, guys. So the whole premise of this video is about this lady named Full On Karen, who is complaining about the abuse of returns on Amazon. And I just want to put out this preface video first so that you have it in the back of your mind to understand that it's not that Amazon does nothing about it on a case-by-case basis. And some people might even argue that Amazon is a little bit too sensitive about it. So you'll see what I mean in a second.
Far one of the most generous and lenient return policies when it comes to online shopping. But shoppers are finding out the hard way that Amazon can be just as ruthless as it is kind. You see, it's not as simple as signing up for a new account. Amazon's blacklisted customers are banned from ever reusing Amazon services, and they have clever technologies in place to stop unwanted customers from ever using their services again. Amazon don't make it clear what the violations are or what kind of action the company will take, but some customers claim they've been permanently banned from the site just for requesting a refund on a small number of damaged or missing items. One such customer was a 20-year-old identified by the Wall Street Journal who said he was notified that he no longer had access to his Amazon account because he had violated the terms of use. According to the report, Amazon not only banned him but told him that he could not open a new account or place orders through the account of another Amazon customer. He had a $450 gift card balance that he could no longer use, and after contacting them almost every day over a 2-week period, a customer service agent told him he'd been banned because of his return activity. However, he said he'd only returned just 5 items over 2 years. Although Amazon doesn't tell customers in its return policy that their return behavior can get them banned, the company says in its terms of use that it reserves the right to terminate accounts in its sole discretion. According to a former Amazon manager, the company terminates accounts for behaviors including requesting too many refunds, sending back the wrong items, or violating other rules, such as trying to sell copyrighted material.
Right. So Amazon's platforms, Amazon's rules. This is crystal clear, and we're all aware of that. But the point is that it's not that Amazon does nothing. So before we begin, I want to make crystal clear that it's not that I have no empathy for the situation that is happening right now, but this is a business channel, and it doesn't do anybody, you, the viewer, any good, or Karen herself any good if I just sugarcoat this thing, placate her, or any kind of, just let's go with the empathy route and then it's over, right? We need to take accountability in stuff, and I have to break this down for her in real business terms so that she understands exactly what happened here, the possibilities, and get the whole picture of stuff. She's very upset from her perspective at the moment, and I totally understand that, okay? But ultimately, at the end of the day, we don't learn how to ride a bicycle without falling off of a bicycle a couple of times. A lot of the things that she says over here is actually pretty entitled. So even though I totally, it's unfortunate what happened to her, we still have to break this down and take accountability for everything. So you're going to see that she's very upset in this video, and I will get more into it as she starts speaking.
Let's talk Amazon returns, right? We love Amazon. Especially got Prime, it arrives the next day.
She's already got this very combative, sarcastic energy because she's very upset.
For years and years and years, you have a lot of very small businesses, single proprietor owners selling on Amazon, playing by all the rules, right? I paid $15,000 by the end of all of it for a course by the Rainmaker family. And the one thing missing in their module and all of their upgrades and teachings was how to avoid return abuse, right? The only thing missing.
All right, so already I'm going to say, okay, I'm about to drop about a dozen truth bombs in this video. This is very entitled behavior, right? Ultimately, a lot of people will tell you 9 out of 10 businesses fail, right? Of course, to be more specific about that, it's more like 20% of businesses fail within the first 2 years, 45% of businesses fail within the first 5 or 6, et cetera, so that most businesses do not make it past the 15-year mark. Does that make sense? And that's why the saying comes from 9 out of 10 businesses fail. So even though, people have some success, but ultimately, how long can you go on for? Okay. So what she's saying over here is the whole, like, how do you prevent the whole, return scams and stuff like that? First of all, this is very presumptuous of you to just think that there is a whole abuse attack kind of thing going on. And as we saw before, it's not like Amazon does nothing about it. But when she goes into it and says, look, I did all the right things. I did what people told me. I paid the price and stuff like that. And it didn't pan out the way that I expected. What happened? I should have won, right? No, that is job security that you are talking about. If you go and get a job and then the person gives you a list of responsibilities and tasks to do, and you've completed all those things, you are absolutely entitled to compensation to the point where you could take them to court for such kinds of practices, right? But what you're doing here is Amazon FBA specifically, and Amazon FBA as a seller, you have to comply with the whole A to Z guarantee for the customer, because the customer experience that's created on Amazon that gives people like yourself a chance to become a millionaire if you do things right on Amazon, if you're lucky with the right kind of product, if you promote things properly, if you know what I mean? A lot of stars have to align properly in order for your Amazon FBA thing to be successful. So the issue right now is that you're coming at this with an entitled approach saying like, look, I did all these things. Where is my win? No, that's not how it works. Okay. Because ultimately people still have to go through with a fine comb, right? Of exactly everything that you did, exactly where you went wrong. And that's why this thing didn't pan out. And plus, the Rainmaker family, they owe you the education and trade for what you paid for. They don't owe you success. Nobody guarantees success. That would be the equivalent of saying that, like, okay, I'll go to your 4-year college. I'll pay the tuition. Are you going to guarantee me success? No college is going to guarantee you success. Not Harvard, not Yale. So what are we talking about here? That's exactly the same thing that happens here. Amazon is just another business platform. People can fail in real life, brick and mortar stores. People can fail on Amazon. That's exactly what happens. I understand that you're very upset right now because of the outcome of the situation, but we don't start, making blames in strange directions, because if anything, that's not how you're going to be set up for better success in the future. Ultimately, when you say, everybody's got to go to college in order to get a good job and stuff like that, does college guarantee a job? No. College will set you up for more likely to be successful. That's the whole point. So let's just keep that in mind first before we keep moving forward with such an entitled approach.
And it was the only thing that put me under. I'm going to be 47 years old. I have an entrepreneurial spirit. And I decided if I pay for the best information and I do everything I'm told, buy all the upgrades, share the wealth, share my experience, pay it forward, which I did, I'd win. So what I did is it took me a year to launch. I worked with a manufacturer, Mr. Wu, in China, and I created a stroller bag. Let's pick one out here. So with a huge carabiner that you can attach to your stroller.
More specifically, she created a type of stroller bag, like she has her own spin on it.
Huge.
Right. So it's huge, right? Maybe it's too big.
So you got like a Bob jogger, big stroller. You can wear it as a backpack. Oh, look. Sack it. So people were using my stroller bag and returning them after their vacation.
Right. So did you consider the possibility of that? See, listen to what you're saying over here, right? So now, is it really the Rainmaker family's problem? Is it really their fault? Or it's because you didn't consider the possibility of that people might buy this thing, go on their Disney vacations, come home, and then just return it? Or is it possible that this thing is just way too big? See, ultimately, when you've been doing business for a while and selling a whole bunch of things for a long time, right? You know, like the reasons people start to send things back. People are going to be simply tick the box, I didn't like it, or item not as described, which is very common, right? But when you talk about item not as described, that is an umbrella term for so many possible things. It could be for the amount of money that you charged, and then they purchased it because they couldn't tell by the photos. When they received it, they think this is cheap junk and I could have gotten something cheaper. Like, as we saw before, when I showed you a whole bunch of stroller bags, the average price was about $25. There was one for $17.99. How do you know the person didn't just say, oh, well, I didn't see this one at that time, because people continue to shop for stuff and then they returned yours, not thinking too much about it? Yes, people are going to return in an insensitive type of way, but that is the ecosystem that Amazon has created that allowed for a platform that gives people, average people, a chance to become millionaires on Amazon doing the right product. Why? Because when you think about exactly what the world used to be like when people used to go to shopping malls and stores like that, what happens over there? You go to a store, and then if you want to return something, you have to bring it back to the store. Now, in order to incentivize people to shop online instead of going into stores, then we have to make the return process very easy so that people don't have the pressure of shopping on eggshells. So when you think about exactly how that infrastructure needs to work, it's actually worked out beautifully to the point where it has destroyed almost every single mall all along America. You've seen videos everywhere, right? Where this mall's dead, this is the ghost mall, this is the ghost mall, this is the ghost mall, right? A lot of retail shopping has been destroyed because of Amazon. And because of that, it gives people like you a chance to go sell your own thing and then hit it big on Amazon. So, you know, it is a two-way street, ultimately, at the end of the day.
One or two, not a problem, but we're talking thousands of lost revenue because mommies and daddies were using my stroller bag and deciding, oh, we used it, no problem, it's Amazon, just return it.
How do you know that? Did you interview every single one of these people and that's exactly what happened? Sure. Guaranteed, there's probably a couple of people who went on vacation, because you could tell by how they put their name on the bag. So they wrote their name on the bag and then they went on vacation, they came back, they used it, and then they don't need it anymore. But ultimately, was it the Rainmakers family, whatever, their idea to tell you to do a stroller bag? Is that what happened? So, because if that's the case, that's completely different. So it depends on what the education that she purchased. If she purchased $5,000 and they were just a whole bunch of, like, you know, digital courses or whatever, where she never even got to meet any actual mentor or tutor or anything like that, and then this is what ended up happening, then they have no way of knowing exactly the nuance between every single product that's out there. They can only give you the basic knowledge of, like, when you do Amazon FBA, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Honestly, there's a lot of knowledge that goes into this, but the main thing that I want to say is that Amazon FBA is not the stomping grounds for beginners, period. I personally myself have about 6 mainstream marketplaces that I work with. Amazon, eBay, Walmart, Etsy, Newegg, and Temu. Temu being the worst. Now, not the worst in business, meaning the worst platform to deal with. Anyways, the point is that I diversify all of my stuff between all of these accounts because eBay and Etsy are excellent stomping grounds for beginning items, whether you're a beginner doing business or when you're trying to test a certain item out, because you want that fulfilled by merchant kind of ecosystems. While on on Amazon, right, you need to be more of the FBA in order to be more successful. Sure, you could do things fulfilled by seller as well, but you won't feel it the same as FBA because people like to buy the FBA stuff because they have Prime accounts, and even though this is exactly what happens, people trust the delivery system of FBA more than the stuff that's just fulfilled by sellers. Okay, so with all of that said, right, when you bring in a new item, you want to buy that minimum order quantity, whether it's 50 units or 200 units, something like that, and then try them out and start developing your sales channels on smaller platforms such as eBay and Etsy, so that you always have that exit strategy right there. And then you also do some, by the time you could reorder, because what you want to do is that you want to start off with a small quantity first and make sure that it's going to sell and sell well. And then you also get to find out a lot of things, because let's say the minimum order quantity for this thing was like 50 bags or 200 bags, not a big deal. So you buy those and then you put it on eBay. And then if you're getting a lot of returns on eBay, of course you're going to get a lot of returns on Amazon, because a customer is a customer is a customer. So if you're getting a lot of returns on eBay and then you're talking to your customers and stuff, you get to learn from that before you scale it up into Amazon. But you started off with Amazon FBA immediately, which is fine as well. But it's more for experienced sellers than anybody else. And that's why you decided to take a course, because if you were an experienced seller, you wouldn't have signed up for the Rainmaker Family course, right? So therefore, once you jumped into this, that is the buy-in price. So a lot of people are saying right now, you know, $15,000, that's a lot of money to lose and this, stuff like that. Right. This is what I'm saying. These are the channels that they don't do this. This is what I do. And I will tell you right now, the same thing that my father told me the first time of my first item that I purchased, which was I bought 1,000 units of seat covers, which went for $8.50 at the time. And then I had to pay another $1.50 for the inland charge for the slow boat all the way from China over to here. And it ended up costing me $10,000. And I was nervous at that time, and I was trying to tell my dad about it, and hopefully, you know, get some comfort out of the old man or whatever. And you know what he said to me? He scoffed at me. He's like, $10,000, that's nothing. Shut up. That's nothing. He told me to shut up, and it was nothing. Okay. Can you imagine how I'm supposed to take it? But the thing is that this is business. You're supposed to take a kick in the teeth. You're supposed to take an ice cold plunge. All right. And if you listen to that advice properly, then you would understand that that is such a minimum buy-in in order to do business. Because once you flip that, do you know what happens afterwards? Either you're going to build up momentum of success, or you're going to build up momentum of failure, one or the other. But that is the initial buy-in in order to try anything, because you have to meet the minimum order quantities in order to do stuff. So the item that I picked, the MOQ, was 1,000 pieces. So, you know, it is what it is. But exactly when you think about it in another perspective, right? If you went to, let's say, I don't know, a casino, and then the table's minimum buy-in was $10,000. You're just going to sit down and then put down $10,000. And if you lose the $10,000, you're going to be shocked and angry? No, because that is exactly what the buy-in amount was. So if you're going to be doing something and just trying it out, and if you could get yourself 10 pieces, 20 pieces, smaller quantities and stuff, and then try them out on eBay first, so that you would have far less risk and then far more feedback before you decide to scale up. So you scaled up right away, and not everything was perfect. So now it's the harder you're going to fall, and that's exactly what happened over here.
Guess what? If it's not an Amazon brand and you return that, your next door neighbor who's running her Amazon business out of her home eats it. Doesn't just have to take the return and eat it, but has to pay for all the return processing, sending it back to me with missing parts.
I got to give her a slap on the wrist for this one. Are you saying that, like, you know, what happened to you is not okay, but if it happens to Amazon, then it's okay? Screw them? Are you trying to say only small business lives matter? What's going on here? You know, I don't think most people have caught, because everybody's so caught up in, like, yeah, what happened to her is so unfortunate. I want to be empathetic. I want to be like, but the thing is that nobody learns from doing that. We have to take responsibility for stuff. And right now you are so upset that you're saying, well, you know, if it happens to Amazon, then that's fine. We'll make them eat it. But if you're trying to make me eat it, then that's no good. also, I want you to really think about exactly the legislation that you're trying to push here. Okay. And what I mean by that is like, you're trying to change the rules. You're saying that like, okay, you got to think about, you got to consider me, right? Okay. So we're just not going to consider the customer anymore. If the customer buys something and it's not as described, okay, because there are sellers out there that put up photos or whatever that is not as described. We have no idea exactly what her listing is and specifically which product that she's doing because she doesn't say that in this video. So I don't know if ultimately you were charging too high for something and people are regretful buyers, or they found something else that's better, or these things, the sizing is no good. There's something no good about this thing. And if so many people are returning it, then that's sending you a particular message. Don't write them all off as just trolls.
Used. Oh, look. Just in case it gets lost and you want your stroller back.
Oof.
Let's see. Andrew and Kayla Nelson, thank you so much.
Now we're good. Now we're just gonna call out the customers.
Here we go. You don't want to lose your precious stroller, but your gate check tag is still attached. So what I'm doing is I'm making room for my next business adventure, which has nothing to do with Amazon or Rainmaker family ever again.
Venture, not adventure. This is an adventure. I'm just making a joke. I'm sorry, bad joke.
By the way, is I am going through bag after bag after bag after bag after bag after bag. So guess what? I'm just letting you know, as Amazon gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and they have their own brand, and these small family businesses are competing with Amazon, and they'll return it instantly, right? You use whatever it is, you walk into Staples, scan the code, you get your money back instantly, maybe in a credit or in 24 hours to your credit card. If you try to return the same item and it's an Amazon brand, they vet the process all the way through. So you don't get your money back right away. They have to receive it. God forbid it gets lost. So if it's an Amazon brand, you might have to wait a minute. But if you're Susie Joe next door, go ahead. Go ahead.
Correct. This is not something that you should have aggressive, sarcastic energy about. Correct. You signed up for this. This is Amazon A to Z guarantee for the customer, because the customer experience has to come first. If there are a ton of shoppers on Amazon, sellers are highly incentivized to take their business over to Amazon. And then more sellers that you could find more stuff on Amazon will beget more shoppers, and then more shoppers will bring in more sellers, and more sellers bring in more shoppers, and more shoppers bring in more sellers. That's why Amazon sells 60 times more than what eBay Marketplace sells. You know what I mean? In quantity. So the thing is that like it has to be this way, because otherwise, why buy it from Amazon? I just go buy it from Staples, because that way, if I buy it from Staples and then I don't like it, I just bring it back to Staples and then they scan it, and so it's better to shop at Staples. No, we need to create an ecosystem where it's just as easy to return from Amazon, if not easier. You could just go to, an Amazon locker or a distribution center, or you could go to, I believe, like a Kohl's or something, or any kind of, Amazon locker or something like that, and then return this item. Make it very easy for the customer. That way, there's no barriers. There's no reason not to shop at Amazon. And that's why Amazon has so many customers that's constantly buying from there with confidence. That's why they don't shop as much on the other websites. So therefore, you could go on this platform and have a chance to become a millionaire. It has to be this way. So whatever it is you're complaining about right now, again, I'm very empathetic that it is unfortunate that it's happening to you right now, meaning that you're trying to ride the bike and you fell off the bike. You got a boo-boo. We're all very, empathetic for you. However, think about the contrary to what you are suggesting. So what happens to the customers? The customers are going to be like, okay, so if I make a mistake, or if I don't like it, or, there's something off about that, I'm just completely not allowed to return it whatsoever, because I have to worry about what you said, Susie Joe. Now, if we create that kind of ecosystem, what happens to Amazon? Amazon goes down, and then there won't be an Amazon anymore.
It may not look like much to you, but this is $1,000 in lost revenue. I hit my goal. I wanted to make $10,000 in 90 days, and I did it.
Okay, I wanted to make $10,000 in 90 days. Kudos to the Rainmaker family, because you didn't do nothing, you did sales, and honestly, all these returns that are in front of you, you can't have this many returns if you didn't have even more sales, right? So you did $10,000 in sales. So whatever they taught you as far as getting your product made with Mr. Wu in China and then importing it over here so that you have it on, or shipping it directly to Amazon FBA, and then setting up PPC campaigns, keywording, negative keywording, keyword targeting and stuff like that, how much you're going to bid on stuff, all that good stuff, right? And then what happened? It started generating sales and you made $10,000. Okay. Ultimately, with every single business, we need to think about our loss threshold, right? Depending on the margins of your item could be anywhere between 3 to 10% of loss, and it is acceptable depending on what the item is. There are certain items out there where people buy, like, I don't know, like a hairband or something like that, which is highly unlikely to be returned, right? And there are certain things that people buy that has a higher possible return rate. And for those things, we need to make sure that our margins are good in order to cover that stuff. So ultimately, I see a lot of beginner sellers who are upset about the return process, especially if they feel scammed or if they feel trolled in some way. This person is returning this stuff and they're trying to cheat me, et cetera, right? But honestly, once you start really scaling your business, you don't have time for any of that nonsense. If I get trolled or I get scammed or people are returning stuff or people are sending me back like a box of rocks or a box of crayons or something, okay? If it is within the 3%, 5%, 10% that I've already calculated for, I don't care. If you troll me, it is what it is. I can't help that because I don't have time for that. I need to move on to the next sale, the next sale, the next sale. I need to move on to the next $1 million idea. I don't have time for one guy who trolled me or something like that. So if I sell something like this, so earlier we talked about exactly the average price, right? So the average price that we saw for the stroller bags was about like $25. I don't know how much hers was, but let's just assume her item is about the average price. Now, she said she did $10,000. $10,000 divided by 25 is about 400 units. So if she sold 400 units and there's about like 40 returns sitting in front of her right there, okay, that is a 10% threshold, okay? So it depends what your margins is and stuff. So 10% could be really, really high. Maybe she has 100 returns in that hallway right now. So that is a 25% return rate. So here's the issue. We need to think about this business-wise. Why are we getting a 25% return rate? What happened? Something went wrong with the sale, something wrong with the listing, something's not matching up. We need to go back and email kindly with all of these customers because people on Amazon actually don't really go back and forth on the emails as much as other platforms do. People kind of just buy stuff and move on to the next thing. So it's really hard to get feedback unless they're writing the feedbacks, in your how many stars that they leave you and stuff. But essentially, you have to really, really start listening to customers. What she's doing right now is awful because she's just assuming everybody is just, spamming returns and abusing the system and targeting her, right? And rather than that, you need to start listening to every single customer and making sure you understand exactly why everybody is returning this stuff. It could be there's a sizing issue. You just said that, big oversized bag. Maybe that is exactly what the issue is. Your bag is oversized and you didn't set up the sizing. I'm just guessing on this stuff, right? But the point is that ultimately, why are you getting so many returns? I come from a place of a lot of experience, and that's why I could throw up all of these possible examples to try to be helpful. But ultimately, she doesn't go into exactly what her listing is, what the ASIN number is and all that stuff. So there's too much context that's missing. But for you to take this approach and just assume that everybody's trolling, that's not the right approach.
And then the return abuse started. Rainmaker family, it was the only module missing in your $12,000 course.
So exactly what is the module supposed to do? Like how to block people from returning? That's not cool. Think about what you're saying here, right? So what exactly would combat to something like that? Ultimately, with what you're saying right now, we got to say it one more time, right? It could be the nature of your item is something that people just buy once for a vacation, wrap up the stroller, they come back from it, and then they give it back to you. All right. So she also explains that a lot of them that get returned or whatever, there is a lot of parts missing and things like that. So here's the thing. From my experience, every single time I buy stuff from Mr. Wu, all right, I would talk to them about considering the future of refurbishing stuff. So what that means is that whatever item it is that I buy, I try to negotiate them for free, okay, 5% parts and packaging, so that in case I have some returns or whatever, okay, up to 5% amount, that I could go ahead and refurbish anything and then repack it and then sell it again. This is especially useful if you're fulfilled by seller, because it just gets delivered directly back to you instead of everything in this huge batch. If you're doing fulfilled by Amazon, that everything gets returned to Amazon first, and then Amazon will ask you, do you want me to send you back all the returns, or do you want us to just discard it? You really, really want to be in a position where the amount of things that got returned to you plus your loss threshold can be at a place where you could tell Amazon, just discard it and then move on and then keep ordering more. You really want to tune your business to be in that place. This is me coming from a lot of experience trying to share that with you.
And then when I got on the Rainmaker family Facebook page to ask questions, and I was really frustrated with the return abuse, which Amazon doesn't even care. I spent hours on the phone proving abuse, and they gave me the middle finger every single time. And when I expressed my frustration, they kicked me off their page, so I couldn't talk anymore. I couldn't ask questions. And they're continuing to take people's money. So this is just your PSA announcement.
Yeah, I suppose, they could have been a lot kinder. We don't know exactly what she said on their Facebook page. It could have just been legit questions and then they just kicked her off and they were very mean about it. Or she probably left some angry message and that's why they kicked her off. There's always two sides to every single story, right? So the issue is that, as I explained, right, if you get into the Rainmaker space and say, hey, in your module, you didn't cover return abuse, I'm going to have the exact same attitude too. Like, exactly what am I supposed to put in my module? How to block people from returning stuff? No, people need to be able to freely return stuff and to have that knowledge that they could always freely return stuff, because that's what creates a huge system, right? That's what creates the huge popularity of Amazon, that customers can come here without any repercussions of like, okay, sure, some people are returning way too many things. And as we showed in the earlier video, it's not that Amazon doesn't track for that kind of behavior. And then when they ban them forever. And they ban their home address too, which I feel really bad about, if anything, because imagine they move and then you move to that address. And now when you buy something and you want to ship it to that address, it was from somebody who was previously banned not too long ago at Amazon. And now you can't receive shipments. So you got to call them and tell them like, hey, I'm not the same guy. This is exactly what I mean, right? The whole shipping thing and why they're so lenient about it is also the reason why they're so big and so popular. So it's a good trade-off. If you don't have that, then the platform isn't big enough for people like you to find just a single item and become a millionaire overnight with it.
That when you're purchasing someone from Amazon,
Well, maybe not overnight. It'll probably take you like a year, but still faster.
and it's not from big ol' Amazon, please remember that you're purchasing from someone like me who has spent every last dime trying to make a living and
See, this is the second time that she's done this, right? Like, if you could do it to Amazon, but don't do it to me. If you feel as if something is wrong, morally reprehensible, it's just not right, okay? If you're arguing ethics, then shouldn't it be wrong across the board? Why is it okay to do it to a faceless entity, but now it's not okay to do it to, Susie Joe? That's exactly what's happening right now. She's so angry that she's saying stuff like this. And, you know, Karen, when you're, you know, calmed down and woken up from this and stuff, really take a moment and think about what you're saying. It's okay to do it. So what if you owned Amazon? Yeah, that's fine. It's almost as going far as saying that, like, okay, you know, if you burn somebody's shed down, right? That's totally messed up because it's on that one person and you don't know what their financial situation is. But if it's an Amazon locker, yeah, no big deal. They got plenty of those. No, they're both bad. Like if it's bad on you, then it's just bad, period. It doesn't matter who it happens to.
Bring an income in and contribute to their home so that they can do it and still stay at home and be a mom, which is what I did. So when you buy something, use it and return it, you're hurting someone like me. You're hurting someone like my family. It's stealing. It's stealing.
Ooh.
So this return abuse that
Okay, I have to make the flip side argument here, okay? And it's going to be really hard to listen to, I know, okay? When you sell me something and the item is not described, that's stealing. Does that sound familiar? Does that actually even make sense? Guys, have you ever purchased something and it was product not described and you felt cheated? And now you're here like making a video and saying that's it. Right, exactly. So we don't know exactly what her product is and exactly what happened. Is it really just, you know, a combined effort or highly unlikely, right? That so many people are just like out to get, you know, full on Karen over here. It's more likely that there's something actually wrong between the listing and the item or the item itself of what they're receiving. Or there are other people out there that are offering far better value. Ultimately, at the end of the day, you're supposed to create an item that people absolutely want to keep. If you are offering an item and you're asking for less money than what it's worth, highly likely that people are going to buy and keep the stuff. Most people, and any seller will tell you this, that the buyer mentality is that most people who shop and buy stuff do have the intention of wanting to keep it. It's just that once they received it, they're disappointed in it in some way. And we need to figure out exactly what that is, because you are not the only seller of stroller bags. And there are other people who are number 1, number 2, number 6 sellers of stroller bags, and they're still going strong. How do you explain for that? If this is tanking everybody and all this abuse is tanking everybody, then what about the number 1, number 2 guys? Shouldn't they be tanked even harder? That's not what's happening. So right now you're upset and the stories and the hypotheticals are running your mind right now. This is not the way to approach it.
a lot of people are guilty of. Please remember that unless you're ordering from Amazon's brand directly, I mean, use it, return it, I don't care. But please remember.
Yeah, so, you know, when it happens to Amazon, like who cares? It's almost as if, like, if she was the shopper and, you know, like, if we could just do it to Amazon, then let's just do it to Amazon. So that kind of makes you not a good person, right? We're supposed to say this behavior is poor behavior across the board. Don't do it to anybody. Don't do it to the little guy. Don't do it to the big guy either, because it's morally reprehensible. But specifically what she's saying right now with the whole return process and stuff, again, as I explained, the return process needs to be open and free and allow people to return for any reason. That way, there's no reason not to shop at Amazon as opposed to going out to her example of Staples.
That you have small businesses and sole proprietorships, moms, single moms, stay-at-home moms, dads, whoever you are, and every single time you purchase something and you use it, legitimately use it and send it back, you are sinking people like me. 2025 is my year. I am speaking over all of this that I probably have to just give away. So if you want one, reach out. I'm getting this all back in 2025. None of this was lost. I paid to learn. And I hope all of you do Amazon returns differently and understand that it is wounding.
When she said, I paid to learn, that is the correct attitude. But right now, her perspective is going to prevent her from moving forward with the right attitude. in order to improve and have and be set up for better success in the future?
The small business owner. And this is no joke. It is rampant. And now Amazon has to compete with places like Temu. And now I'll shop with Temu. And I shop locally with small businesses. Amazon screwed me. And they're continuing to do it.
Okay, I laugh because Temu is terrible, all right? I am a professional Temu seller, all right? I'm going to tell you this. Any of my new items, the profitable stuff, I don't give it to Temu because I hate Temu, all right? Temu wants you to sell everything 15% less than whatever it is you sell on Amazon, unless you can prove that the item that you're moving on Amazon is currently doing over $300,000 in sales. And then you will get VIP status on Temu so that you could sell the exact same thing as Amazon. So it works like this, right? If you're a small seller and you're not doing that much revenue, then whatever you sell on Amazon, then Temu wants it for 15% less. That way they could beat up Amazon. If you're doing so well on Amazon that, hey, I don't need Temu, then Temu will turn around and say, all right, I'll let you sell for the same price on Temu. How about that? So that you could do a little more sales or whatever. That way, it still gets a chance to compete against Amazon. Temu is doing anything that it can to compete with Amazon. But that's not the reason why I hate it. I hate it because they specifically say something like, I forget if it was like 6, 7, or 8. I think it's 6, right? If your item doesn't reach the buyer within 6 days, doesn't matter whose fault it is, you are penalized $5. And it's $5 flat. All right. So whatever it is that you're selling, it better be a $200 item or something like that. That way, okay, fine, $5 penalty. It is what it is. But the thing is that if you're selling something at like $200, then most likely you're using priority postage in order to do that. So highly unlikely that they're going to receive it after, 6 or 7 days. So the issue is that for your cheaper items, your lower priced items, you're most likely going to be using USPS Ground Advantage. And when that happens, it's a lot slower. So what did I do? For the items that I'm willing to give Temu because they're items that are more closed out that I don't care about or I have less quantity of, I just got like, 75 pieces left. I don't care. I'm just going to give it to them because I just want to spread it out and phase this item out or something, right? So I'll give it to Temu and I don't really care about the price too much. So I'll let them, dictate what price it's going to sell. Okay. For those items, I completely turned off anything outside of the 48 contingent states. So if you're Puerto Rico, Hawaii, Guam, or whatever, and I have to ship it to you by Ground Advantage, I already know I'm going to take a $5 hit for it. It's absolutely going to happen. And the worst part is that I probably don't even make $5 on that item because it's an item that I'm closing out and I don't care about. But I'm not going to do it for charity either, right? So what's going to happen is that I'm just going to shut off anything outside of the 48 contingent. You can't have it. And the only items that I give Temu are the ones that are the scraps of my table. That's why I don't like Temu. And I just use it for a dumping ground. That's what Temu is like. So if you're going to come over here and then say Temu is better than Amazon, then lady, this is exactly what I'm talking about. You're a newbie to business. And once you get into Temu, you're going to see how bad it is over there too. That's why I laugh. What's happening to you is absolutely unfortunate. And I totally sympathize. You're trying to learn how to ride a bike. You fell off the bike. It hurts. I totally get it. But $15,000 for both education and it helped you do $10,000 in revenue first. Sure, there's this huge hiccup here with a whole bunch of returns and stuff, but the learning experience and what the buy-in is something that you really have to take with a grain of salt. Because when you think about the startup costs for a lot of other businesses, $10,000 is exactly as my father says, it is nothing. Stop crying over it. $10,000, $15,000 is nothing if you want to get into this particular game. When you think about a food truck, like, late night burrito food truck, like that kind of stuff, you know how much a food truck is these days? It's about $100,000 to do a food truck. So when you see two guys in there, packing up like nachos, burritos and stuff like that, they raised $100,000 to do that. So you know what I mean? That's very commendable. So every time I see a food truck or whatever, it's nothing to laugh at. What you did over here with Mr. Wu and plus your education and stuff like that is only 15 grand. That's nothing compared to even just a food truck. So really, when you put it in a certain perspective, now we could come back and say $15,000 is nothing. When you think about $15,000 worth of groceries, yeah, that is huge. When you think about $15,000 worth of, apartment rent, that is absolutely huge. It's all about the perspective. But in this particular context of we're talking about business, $15,000, yep, that's how much it costs.
So if you don't know about this and you love your Amazon Prime, please be careful. Please have mercy on us, because this was thousands of dollars.
I really hope that you could take comfort in my words, that $15,000 was nothing. And I'm not saying that to belittle this. I'm trying to say that, like, for a shot at becoming a millionaire, the $15,000. See, the thing is that, like, if it is guaranteed that you spend $15,000 and then you're definitely going to start making, $500,000 every single month and stuff like that, then everybody would trade for that. People would do this all day. It's because it still has to be some kind of risk at the end of the day. It still requires a lot of skill at the end of the day. And for many businesses, a lot of luck is required as well, especially when you're first starting out and there's so many ins and outs that you don't know. So there are many people who have accidentally stumbled on an excellent idea. They just meant to solve a problem for their daughter, for their family member. And then it turns out people are like, wow, that's an awesome idea, because they posted it on their Instagram or something. And people are like, where can I get this? And they're like, there's nowhere you could get this. I made this myself. And then they started a business from it. So there's plenty of things like that could happen that is just simply based off of luck. This is why we say, business is risk. So the sooner you accept all of those truths, right, the better you're going to start feeling, and the better you're going to do your next business venture.
And lost revenue, and Amazon does not give two.
Ooh, I'm gonna have to bleep that out.
From the bottom of my heart to reconsider a return if you have legitimately used it, because even if you haven't and you sent it back, it costs the seller just as much, if not more, because then they have to send it back to the warehouse to integrate it back into their storehouses and supplies. Thanks.
Ultimately, the main takeaway from this is that you're going to have to dig deep to look within. You have to take the blame all the time. Even when you're probably not to blame, you have to consider the fact that maybe you're to blame, because the more that you are to blame, then the more you could change something in order to get different outcomes. Ultimately, I want to point out that different hurdles in business is exactly what's going to separate you from the weekend warriors, from the daydreamers who are just megalomaniacs thinking about making money all the time. You have to be able to overcome these hurdles. So basically, whatever happened with your bag right now that you're getting a whole bunch of returns, you have to find a way to overcome this hurdle and not just chalk it up to say there's just a bunch of trolls out there. I'm happy that ultimately she's not saying that she's not going to give up and then she's going to try it again, but hopefully she's going to come at it with the right attitude next time. So anyways, guys, that is the video. As always, if you enjoyed that, please give it a like. And if you learned something, please consider subscribing. Take care, and I'll see you guys in the next.